Hey Mallards, it's Friday, which means only one thing. It's time to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Because really, had you noticed how the days of the week just really go? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Saturday? I mean, I noticed. I also noticed when it changed from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, WandaVision, Saturday. Anyway, this show started off with a bang, and we talked about that last week. But they're really hitting hard. I discussed on my channel previously when I was watching the DC superhero shows how they have really started to address the Black Lives Matter movement and police brutality, and how I think it is really good that that has happened, and it's nice to see that sort of thing portrayed in media. And despite this having been a movement at previous times in my life, this is the first time that I really feel television has come around to being realistic about those things. And this show was no exception. There is a scene where Bucky and Sam are having a discussion, like an angry discussion on the street. Not a fight, because they're just verbally sparring. And the cops pull over and ask Bucky if Sam is bothering him and demand Sam's ID and are just generally being terrible. And then one of the other cops goes, "Hey dude, that's an Avenger." And then he goes, "Oh, Mr. Wilson, I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you without the goggles." Which it's its own declaration of racism there. And I love it. Like, I'm totally in for this series, talking about everything. Then they arrest Bucky because he didn't do his mandatory therapy session, which is like not checking in with your parole officer, so he's under arrest. And he and Sam have to do a therapy session. And I already love that Bucky is going to therapy and that we are dealing at least a little bit with his mental anguish as well. I mean, he's not handling it well, but I think that that's also an accurate portrayal. And it's nice to see somebody a little bit resistant, especially because it doesn't seem like they're going to give up on that. It seems like it's going to continue to be a part of things. And as predicted, immediately upon them declaring a new Captain America in John Walker, Bucky was like, "Sam, we gotta talk. Like, you gave up that shield and it was a mistake, and then we gotta talk about it." And I don't necessarily disagree with that, although I can see why Sam did what he did. And John Walker is an interesting character. In the comics, he is a little too brutal to be Captain America. And at this moment, he's not, but there is suggestion that he likes to punch his way out of things. So I will be very curious to see where that goes. They've also rebuilt the Flag Smashers and gotten us a little bit of insight into them. And I enjoy the fact that they seem to be sort of anarchists. They want to go back to when, during the blip, because 50% of the population was gone, the world stopped having borders and everyone was united and a bunch of things like that. And they liked it that way and felt that the world was kinder and a better place and want to go back to that. But now everyone's blipped back into existence and the world is trying to rebuild immediately to have borders and restart citizenship and do all that sort of stuff. And there are displaced groups of refugees all over the world, and this group is essentially stealing medicine to get to them. So the idea that they're fighting against a group that is doing good, even if they're not doing good in the right way, I think will be interesting and will be a fun way to play into this. And also the idea that John Walker is now part of that as Captain America. And so Captain America will potentially be fighting against a group that is bringing relief to refugees, I think is something that they're clearly setting up to play with and is an interesting thing to discuss. Not necessarily because Steve would have a problem with it, but there is very much a bit about the image of Captain America versus the actual person who is Captain America. And I like all of the things that they're setting up, and I'm very, very excited for it. And I enjoyed all of the moments in this show. They are trying to build in some sarcastic humor a little bit. Bucky and Sam still have that bit where they don't get along, but you can see the sort of camaraderie building, which I like, because there's obviously an emphasis on Bucky being an isolationist and how that's not good for him. And I like that this show is dealing with issues about being a superhero, issues in society about being Black, African-American, POC, and issues with having mental suffering. And also a little bit of sprinkling of like, the government wants an icon. And I think it will be fun too if we see, like, I would be interested in seeing a little bit more of John Walker dealing with the fact that the government has like set him up to be an icon, but they're maybe setting him up in this show to be kind of just a high and mighty jerk, which I'm also fine with. But the other thing they did in this episode was like, they were like, you know, for the people who read the comics, they all know that John Walker was Captain America for the while, and they also know that in the comics, Sam has been Captain America, and also, if you've read the comics, Bucky has been Captain America. So, like, we're just going to try and cram in as many people who have been Captain America as possible, because you know who they go and visit during this little bit? Isaiah. And Isaiah Bradley is a Captain America. Well, his moniker might have been different, but he was a super soldier created by the government through experimentation with the super soldier serum. And he has a dark history sort of based in kind of the Tuskegee era of our history, when experimentation on African-American Black soldiers was something that the military was just doing. And he came out of that as a superhero who fought for America and was a Captain America for a while during the time that Steve was in the ice. And so they introduced Isaiah Bradley as an elderly gentleman in this, and introduced a bit of history with him and Bucky during Bucky's time as the Winter Soldier, which I thought was nice, and I liked the homage to Isaiah, and maybe we'll get a little bit more of him. And I am excited to see if they explore some of the other Captain Americas that have existed in the comics. And now I also just like have this image in my head of like the end of the show being like all of the super soldiers like dressed as Captain America, just like parading in. Not gonna happen, but if somebody wants to draw that fan art for me, I'd be really in. They also discovered that the people who are in charge of the Flag Smashers are super soldiers, and we don't quite know what's happening there, but I can tell you right now that I can't wait to find out. So let me know what you thought of the show, and if there are any Captain Americas that you're desperate to see. And I'll see you tomorrow.